part 3 here. The focus somewhere in time. Again, it's Heaven Can Wait, somewhere in time. Just to finish up with Heaven Can Wait, and because the focus so much was in that film, it's so notable, the character actors in particular. I mentioned how powerful the ending was, but the ending with Jack Warden and the way they tie that up is just unbelievable. You have these two scenes back to back that are so fucking powerful, and I really say that because it's almost a love story between Jack Warden's character and Joe Pendleton, Beatty's original character. He loves the guy. He wants him to do well, and when he realizes that it's actually he's in Farnsworth's body, and then he realizes he's been switched to Tom Jarrett, right? And he even acknowledges it, and then as Mr. Jordan leaves, he's explaining, listen, this is your body now, but you're not going to remember any of this. But it's still his soul, so in essence, you realize eventually, Jack Warden's going to realize that. So, it is kind of a happy ending because the two are kind of in cahoots by the end of the picture. Julie Christie and Jack Warden, they both realize what's going on, and it's cool how they tie it up. That segues perfectly for the opening of Somewhere in Time. Again, starts with a tremendous performance, as I mentioned in episode 1 with Christopher Reeves. I mean, what he does in that short period of time. A kid, bouncing around at all the prospects of how great life will be, he'll be a playwright and all this, and then it cuts to the reality is he has everything he wants, and he's fucking miserable. So powerful what he conveys in that very short period of time. I showed it to an actor friend of mine that I'm working with on a new project, and he was like, wow, yeah, that's impressive, And Susan French, though, right, talking about character. Now, in Somewhere in Time, the character, it's a two-hander. I mean, it really is. You have Christopher Plummer there, who's in that kind of vein of a, kind of a aging star like Mason, who's now kind of taking the character part, but he's still very important, and he lends it a lot of credibility. Some of the scenes are a little cheesy. It feels a little Karate Kiddish. Oh, this guy's here to just fuck everything up, At times it falls into a little bit of a formula, but it's still very, very powerful. Again, because of the main ideas, we are not strictly confined to the conventional reality that we think we are. In this case, he literally goes back in time to meet Susan French is much older. This is the character he falls in love with. She says to him, she comes up to him at the end of his play, says, come back to me, right? And gives him this keepsake, this little watch that he's held on to years and years later. And then, he decides to go back up to college for whatever reason. Something draws him back up there. And then he goes to the museum, and then that's when he sees the characters played by James Seymour, and falls in love with the image, and then goes back and to his college professor and figures out how to hypnotize himself back in time. Now, right off the bat, we talked about the character actors, but we should also talk about writers. Here's a guy in Richard Matheson. This is based on his own book, Bid Time Return. He actually wrote it. He was inspired by staying at the Coronado, and it's in San Diego. They choose to shoot it at this legendary, place in Mackinac Island. I think it's called the Grand Hotel. Goes way back. It's just old school, great hotel. It's really cool. I actually didn't stay there, but I shot some footage there with a friend when I lived in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Anyhow, shout out to Zobin. We shot this piece. Just check it out on YouTube, Zobin. That's a little throw out to my friend Chris Zobin. Anyhow, Matheson writes the script, is basically allowed to stay, and that's the other thing. They kind of let these guys go and do these pictures. You didn't have this whole committee. It kind of reminds me of the story Frank Zappa tells about, you know, in the old days, these you know, record executives were just old guys chomping cigars, and they're like, I don't know, let's give it a shot. Who the hell knows? And he said they were much better off with those guys than the hip, slick, and cool guys who, oh no, that's not going to work. You know, that they deign to know, you know, what the audience wants, you know, because they're hip, slick, and cool, you know, and that's kind of, you know, another thing about the death of Hollywood. It's like, you know, yeah, they turn this stuff into shit, you know, micromanage it till the end. Whereas, you know, back in this time, they would just let these guys. Jeannot Vark directs Somewhere in Time. He's a very credible director. Came from TV. He's a French guy. Did a lot of stuff. He did some great episodes of Night Gallery, the Rod Serling piece. So he's perfect. Did Jaws 2 after the success of that. He gets to do this, but the budget's cut way back, you know. But he does a great job putting it all together. I think it works beautifully. The performances are terrific. Again, this is going to segue into another video essay I'm going to do focusing on what I think are just great unsung screen performances. And as I've said again, this is one of them. Now, in this case, it's the lead. I already really focused on this already, but I feel it's that important to keep saying. What made Heaven Can Wait work so well is the opening, you know, again, with Jack Warden and then Warren Beatty, and then coming back and having James Mason really sell the thesis of the picture, if you will, you know, make it believable. That's what you have with Christopher Reeves setting the tone automatically in his performance of how really kind of unhappy this guy was, right? And it's so fitting because that's a great Matheson wrote for the Twilight Zone. It's one of my favorite episodes. A nice place to visit. Rocky Valentine, you know. Now he has everything he thought he ever wanted, and he's going to be stuck with it for the rest of eternity, right? Hell is sometimes getting all your dreams, right? Because it's not what we think it's going to be. It doesn't lead to what we think it's going to be. So right off the bat, it's doing something that you don't see in a picture, you know. This guy's supposed to be happy. He's successful, and you can just tell by his body language and everything, he's fucking miserable, you know. And so that sets the tone. That's why he's searching. And obviously there's this gravitational pull to I think it's Elise. Is it Elise? I think it is. I think that's the character's name. It's Jane Seymour. She's tremendous. I mean, she does an amazing job. She's a young actress at the time. Doesn't have a ton of credits, but she's incredible in the film. Does an amazing job with it. You know, really, I mean, you have some smaller performances that are quite good. The guy that plays, I think it's Bill Irwin. He plays the guy Arthur, you know, who's there as a kid, and you know, so it ties together really well. It wraps things around quite well with the whole time travel thing. I mean, to me, I buy in. You know, it suspends my disbelief. I mean, you know. I guess you could quibble about it. I choose not to. You know, I'm going with it because I think the concepts are bigger than that. You know, I think it's talking about a lot of the same things Heaven Can Wait is that is there something beyond what we think we know? You know, does your soul exist beyond this physical world? And I really think that's the question, is Somewhere in Time as well. And in the way it ends, exactly. He essentially comes back in time and dies of a broken heart. You know, and it just packs a punch, man. You know, it's not as well made a film as Heaven Can Wait, but it has a certain power. It almost sticks with you. Like there's something eerie about it. It almost has the quality of like a supernatural thriller, if you will. It really. It hangs around with you because it is a little dark in the end, even though it is kind of a happy ending. But you got to check it out. Check out both these pictures. Watch them back to back. I'd start with Heaven Can Wait and then go to Somewhere in Time. And I think you're going to see two really well-made, you know, romantic, I don't know, what are they? Are they dramedies? They're not really rom-coms. They're just good, solid films, you know. but the kind that they don't really make anymore, unfortunately. So give it a look.